several checks. I say check at e8 and take pawn and f2. Goes, the only place is h6 on king x6. Then check at f8. If king goes to somewhere up there, like I don't know, where does it go? It could go to h5, g5. It could bring the queen to g7. So is the first check forced? I think first and the second check are forced. It was good if I could deflect his queen and then somehow check at somewhere like e5 and win the rook. But it's not easy. So I will give the first check to see what to do. I'm not sure if the second check is forced, but I don't have any other option, do I? Queen takes pawn check and any other thing like rook takes pawn check, king up, queen check, king up again. This time there is no queen g7. So rook check, king goes up. Queen check goes up, it means h6. Queen check at f8, the only place. King goes to h5 or g5. It cannot go to h5 most likely, because then I take the h pawn with the rook and say check, and then has to go to h5 or g5 or g4, and it doesn't seem to be a good position to be at. It is made soon, so it certainly goes to g5 after queen f8 check. No, at this moment I don't see any other check. I see one check actually. I see queen queen e7 check. Its king is at g5 and queen e7 check is a check. Again, doesn't go to h line. It says to into g line, I believe. No, and the only place is to g4. Then pawn, then it's mate. Let's do it. So this check is forced. A goes there, so I just take the h pawn and then mate at f3. What's wrong with that? Not okay. F3 is not mate. So I take the h pawn, and I think the only place is g4, because g5 is bad. It will be met with h5, h4, and there is no way to get rid of mate except giving up a queen. So it goes to g4 then. And then both g4, I saw that queen f3. Queen f3 goes back to g5, and then again we have pawn h5. Okay, let's do it. Okay, it was easy, but I did it a little bit slowly. There is nothing to it to discuss. It was like king was caged in this corner and was getting mated. So I will give two checks, one with the pawn, one with the I push the pawn and say check, for example. Why I cannot mate with the rook? Okay, I can mate, but okay, rook h7 check, king g6, knight h8 check, and rook takes, and then rook g7 check. Just 5 points. Just one thing about this. Okay, this is the king in the corner, so you should mate it some way. And here I had two check possibilities. One was this one, but this is not good because it takes with the pawn, and then this check is not clear anymore. So this was the only trick about this puzzle. This one, the first thing comes to mind is to give check at d7, d2. Give check at d2 and the king runs away. Another check is to give check at d4 with the bishop, because in this case if king runs, we have some better chances of some better checking spots. Why my rook is on e8? Why bishop is on c8? So check at d4 doesn't work because I was thinking d4, then I take the f2 pawn with the queen, bishop d4, queen f2, but of course I cannot because it's simply that pawn is simply defended. Okay, let's check it completely. d4, if king f3, king f3, then bishop g5, g4, check. If takes with the queen, then it's mate, right? Because we take the f2 pawn and it's mate. So it takes with the king, and at this moment we can check with the bishop, with the queen, like a bishop. Check at e2 and goes to h3 with the king, and I have maybe one more check at f3 and that's all. It's not surprising. What if I go bishop? I play bishop d3, d2. I play bishop d2. He plays queen there. He plays king f3, the only place to go. Then suppose I play queen. I don't have any other check. The point is that I'm in a really bad position, right? He's attacking my rook, and if I give, he's taking my rook soon. If I give him a chance, if I give him a chance, then he will mate me, and he will have. If he consolidates, he will win. So another thing I see is that this f1 pawn can push to f5. For example, if he play after bishop check, queen check. After bishop check, no, I cannot do bishop check and then pawn check. It's useless. He just runs. Wow. Another order. I say check with the bishop. Then what does he do? He goes to f3. Then I take the pawn with the bishop, attacking his queen. What can he do? Let's suppose he takes it. Can even ignore it, right? Or can he? I think he cannot ignore it. Maybe he can simply ignore it. I take the pawn with the bishop. Let's say he takes with the queen. He takes with the queen. Then I play bishop g4 check. Even if he takes the bishop and loses queen at f2, because my queen is attacking his queen, then after all he has a lot of pieces against rook and queen. That's not enough for us. My queen should fight against one rook, two bishop, and a knight. So that's not the way to go. Apparently, d4 check is not so good. Another option I see is that d2 check, And then when the queen goes to somewhere like, when the king goes to f3, then I play g5 with the pawn. But that's not good because he can play rook g1, and I don't know what would be the continuation here, because then he can even give up a rook for a bishop and a pawn, and it still is much better than us. So bishop d2, pawn g5 is not working. Bishop, this is just pure calculation. I don't see any pattern here. So this is why I'm calculating. At least at the moment, I see some pattern. I see the pattern that bishop at d4 and queen at f2 at some point can mate. If I force his queen to come to g4, then I can deliver that mate. So I can play bishop. I can play bishop g4 right away, right? Then, if he does nothing, I'm threatening mate at the d2 with the queen. Let's do it. And if he take with the queen, then I say bishop d4 check, and when he moves the king, I mate at the f2. Okay. What to answer? I think I don't have any chance but to take it, right? And this is what I was talking about. This is a mate. Yes, this king was had a small escaping room, and the only place was to go escape after this check was g4, and this spot, f2 spot, was defended by the f2 spot, and was defended by if in this case I was going here immediately, he was going there, and this wasn't working because he could take with the king. And of course I had one check like that, but it wasn't getting anywhere. I thought even he can play this, but I see any move, basically any move is good. And first thing I had to do was to take away this g4. So this bishop, before I move the other bishop, I bring this bishop to close that g4. He couldn't do anything against it, because if we do something like rook here or something that doesn't take care of it, this is mate. And he had to do something against this bishop, and this was the only option. He grabbed the pawn, but then he didn't have any continuation like this check or this check. Both of them are failure. Good puzzle. I liked it. So we are check. We should of course either capture or run away. We are up in material, right? Even if we capture, after that we are up. And so let's capture the first one. Here is important part. Here either I go to f8 or I play rook e7 or I go up. Going up is not an option, right? Because it takes my rook and evens material. We will have even material and there's nothing to play with. Going f8, rook e7, these are two options. King f8, rook f7. I feel king f8 is better because it is counterintuitive. Rook e7 is a natural move you play. Okay, but this is just tricky. The tricky way of thinking. Okay, but let's discuss what is bad about rook e7 or king f8. Rook e7, queen d5 check. I go to f8, takes the pawn with check. If I want to go to f8 at some point, why I shouldn't go immediately? Let's check f8 immediately. f8 immediately, he takes the pawn with check. I go g8. He attacks my rook again. I can support the rook by queen b5, and I don't see any continuation for that. Then why e7 is bad? I don't even see why. I can't even see why e7 is bad. Okay, e7 could be bad maybe because of e7, queen takes f5, check. If I go down, and there is no other option, I should go either to e8 or g8. If I go g8, it's the end of a day, right? Because he checks with the rook and then it's mate. So if I go to e8, sounds very bad because he goes to c8 check and then comes back to, yeah. Okay. At this point, I can say check at the back rank and then take the pawn. No, I can take that pawn with the rook and that's it, right? Say check at the back rank and then take the f pawn. What is the possible check of my opponent? I don't see. So let's do it. So I take the pawn with and defend my f pawn. And he has 1 or 2 checks and that's it. Okay, I could have done it faster to get more points. What should I do? I should first say check and then play bishop d5, or should I do something else? Or I should play bishop d5 right away. I think if I play bishop d5 right away, I missed the chance of checking my opponent. Okay, let's say I go check and then bishop d5, king. I'm considering easy scenario right now. King h3, and then suppose pawn g, pawn g4, and king goes to h4 and is happy. So maybe it's better to first fix this king. Another thing is that I say check, he goes up. Then I say check at f1. There is only one place to go, and that's not nowhere except f3. At f3, I can check with g4, playing g4. He goes to f4, and then I bring the other rook to check him. And I don't see any good continuation. He just goes in to f5, and then I don't have the next check. So it might be the case that bishop e1 is the idea, but how this idea works? Rook check, king up, bishop check, king up. Then I can play rook e4 before delivering any check, because then I want to play g4, and then he has no escape room. So let's give the first check. Okay, second check, and then rook e4. Which rook e4? What's the difference between the two rooks? Suppose e rook to e4. And what can he do? What's the difference? There is a escape room. He can play g4 himself. But if I keep the e rook, the e8, e1 rook in its place, maybe he cannot play that move. Maybe he can. So check with the bishop. The only place is f3. Then rook e4. I'm threatening to play g4. So he plays g4 himself. And I take it. I take it with the rook. he goes back to I take it with the rook, and again I'm threatening to mate, this time not with g4 but playing bishop in g6 g2. Yeah, it sounds good. Let's do this. Rook e8 to e4, right? No, why? The other rook? What was the problem with this rook? This rook goes here. be3. be3. I didn't see this. That was nice. Because cuts in defense of two rooks, I have to keep the rooks connected. Oh, it was nice, but bad part of the story is that we lost some points. What is weak here? His bishop sounds not good. His king is not that safe. His knight is lurking around in the middle without any defense. So there are many targets over the board, but no immediate target. One immediate target I see is to say check, but with a knight, if it takes, I say check with the queen, and then what, I don't know, but I think that's the way to go. Let's say check with the queen. What's the continuation? Yeah, then check with the other knight, check with the queen again. So let's do this check. Should I take it? If I take it and he doesn't take it, for example, it says that, okay, you now we trade a piece. Is it winning for me? I think I should take it and then think about it. I can even take the h3 pawn and see what happens by taking the h3 pawn. That's one option. I take the h3 pawn with the knight. The point is that I can take the other pawn as well, because my bishop is defending the f2 spot. So I take the h3 pawn. And what's the threat here? Or what I am threatening here? Nothing special, actually. I take the h3 pawn, and then what? What to do next? I'm thinking to bring the queen forward somehow, but don't see how. Is it good to say that, okay, I have won a pawn and then my position is certainly superior once I take the h3 pawn with the knight? I'm not even up a pawn, nothing. But my position is certainly better. But I don't see clear continuation here. Why he pushed that pawn into my knight? Why my knight was so dangerous? Okay, I don't know. Okay, one thing I see is that if I take the h3 pawn, I'm still threatening to take that knight and d7, right? And also take the f pawn, all of them together. I can also right away take the d7 knight, because the good thing about this is that I'm still attacking the f pawn with bishop and queen this time. Or I can take simply the h3 pawn and say that still your knight is under attack, do something for your beloved knight, and once you do something for that, I continue my attack. So I think that's good enough. Oh, that was it. So that's wrap up the 2-day puzzles. See you next day.